Welcome back to The Blender. Jason Brennan, Dave Meltzer. If you're viewing us on Facebook, we do appreciate it. Share it with your friends. Lots to get to in these two segments that we're going to do, Dave. And I want to jump all around. This is The Blender. We try to change things up very frequently. And it's The Blender because you throw a bunch of stuff in. You don't really know whether the smoothie is going to come out good or great. Yeah. They usually don't come out bad.
No,
usually put in decent stuff. Let's start with Vontae Davis. We kind of joked about it in the Open, but have you ever heard of somebody retiring mid-game?
No, but it reminded me of like Forrest Gump when he returned the touchdown and just kept
going.
I think as he gets burned, instead of quitting at halftime, he should have, when he got burnt, just like kept running and just left. It would have been awesome.
Do you think he was sitting there and they got torched, right? I mean, but your Chargers went in and torched the Bills the same way the Rams probably looked about as good as them at home against Arizona, but. Both LA teams really stepped it up on offense and defense this week. And was it just like, hey, I see the writing on the wall. This is going to be a long, long season. I don't need this.
There's one word: be a professional, right? I don't care what goes on. This is a job, and you don't walk out in the middle of an event. Period. I don't care what your position is. You don't walk out in the middle of an event. And it just is such a bad brand move because if he changes his mind and wants to play with someone else, it shows a serious character flaw. And one of the worst things, I talk about being a consistent, everyday, persistent without quit, pursuing your potential, enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, then find something else to do. But persistence is in there. And he is one of the least persistent people to quit halftime of an event.
Yeah, it would have been so easy to quit today, right? Just
so
say, look,
easy.
I'm done. I'm going to go out there for another 30 minutes. And maybe mentally you're already checked out. Maybe you tell the coaches, but look,
why just
fake an injury or something?
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Grab your hammy.
You're not the first person to fake an injury.
Grab your hammy and quit on Monday.
Yep.
There's no way you can test a hamstring, right? It's not like they're going to do an X-ray. Just, oh, shoot, I can't go.
And by the way, nobody would have cared in that game because at that point it was keeping Josh Allen alive and trying to move on to the next week.
Yeah, we were trading touchdowns for field goals.
Very good week if you're a Chargers fan or if you're an LA football fan for that matter.
Or AFC West fan.
All right, so let's move over. Forbes lists the most valuable college football programs, and I sent this over to you because I wanted your opinion on it. There's a lot of money in college football, and we've talked about whether or not teams should be paid, but I just want to give you some of the highlights of it. Texas A&M Aggies of the SEC lead the revenue number. This is just football, by the way. This doesn't mean if you have a great basketball team, you're not making money there. And I know there are sports that don't make money before we get into that. But the Texas A&M Aggies, $148 million in revenue with a profit of $107 million. They lead the top of the list. But as you move down, Notre Dame, $112 million, $72 in profit. The Longhorns are $133 million, $87 in profit. You see these huge profit margins because they're ultimately paying a coach and they're paying for operational support to run a football team, right? Which does cost money. There's no money for the players here. It seems like there should be a little bit left over.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of scholarship and education money, and this just has to be utilized in a lot better, more efficient, effective manner. Here's the lesson that I learned. And, we just launched Elevator Pitch for Entrepreneur last week, #1 digital business show. But the one thing I learned from this season was looking past the business and understanding how to monetize it, right? So million great ideas. Now, if you're listening out there, and I know this is live, so this is where most entrepreneurs miss out. So many people go to college because they want to get into business, right? And they spend all their money going to Harvard or wherever it is. I would tell you this. These schools are much easier to get into, even without being an athlete. A&M, Texas is a great school, difficult to get in. Michigan, but Alabama, Ohio State's good. You go down these. They're good schools, but they're not Harvard, Penn, Columbia.
Well, the thing is there's 30,000 people there per class, right?
Yeah.
So you have by sheer numbers,
exactly.
You have a better chance of getting in.
But think about this. If you want to be a businessman, these numbers indicate whose alumni are willing to put the dollars. That's how much they care about their school. So if you want to get a job or you want to start a business and you want to fund a business, I would go and look at this list very seriously and say, you know what, maybe I'm better off going to Texas A&M because of the network I'm going to create, which is to me one of the most important things about being an entrepreneur or a businessman, the people that are instantly loyal to you because you put Texas A&M on your resume, or you can talk and emotionally connect. As far as the players go, whether you're 143 million in a profit of 107 or very little profit, they have to figure out a way to make sure that these players are compensated because they make nothing without these players.
I know you've spent time at the NFL Rookie Symposium, and you kind of know what's going on in the world of young players, right? And Mike Trout is maybe at that crossroads because keep in mind, at 26, 27 years old, which is he is now, he's still very young by a professional athlete perspective. He's been great for a long time, but he's still at the point where most professional athletes would be getting their first contract, right? And maybe at that
especially
point,
baseball players.
At that point in their lives where they're starting to think about legacy. Now, when you think about other sports and baseball, is baseball, because it's more statistic-based, because it's a longer season, is that something where maybe legacy comes into the minds of people like Mike Trout, or is it something that maybe you hold off on for a bit?
I hope that everybody starts thinking about legacy literally from the time they're in college. I think there's so much more to legacy than statistics, and that is one legacy, right? Most home runs. But as we're seeing, and John Elway's record was just beat. As you're seeing, it's only a matter of time before a record is forgotten. And no matter who you are, it's going to be broke. And we saw that with the marathon.
Yeah, just 2 hours on a marathon.
Yeah.
2 hour, 1 minute, I think.
Yeah.
Like I don't know the guy's name, but I saw that time.
But it was like
Amazing.
73 seconds. He beat the world record by like 73 seconds, which is, you can beat it by a second. So it just shows you the legacy on the statistics mean nothing to me. It's the community legacy. And that's where staying in one place can really help you, especially for a guy who's philanthropic, who stays and signs autographs every single game as late as he does. Those kids, if you stay in the same, an 8-year-old today will be 18. A 14-year-old today will be 24 in this 10-year deal, right? And the 17-year-old right now that is looking up to him will be 27, maybe married with a child already.
Right.
It's a legacy that is very important, and I really suggest if you are in college and you think you have any chance of being a professional, start thinking, how can I be kind to my future self and build a legacy?
All right, anonymous PGA Tour survey. This year's annual anonymous survey of PGA Tour's players had some interesting answers. I'm just going to throw out some of the questions that were asked, which I thought they asked good questions, by the way, versus some of the
real
stuff
questions
that I really don't
real
care
questions
about.
Yeah.
Have you ever played a tournament round hungover? Surprisingly, 46% of the field said yes, 54% no. Comments: I shot 61 hungover. I was
daily?
8 under through 13
Was
one
that
time,
daily?
and then made a mess of it. I'm not surprised at all by this.
Yeah, because you play hungover.
I have.
And you probably have
I shot
played
a
your
76
best.
Saturday morning, and I might have been hungover.
Yeah, and that's like him shooting a 61.
Right,
So
absolutely.
that does not surprise me. When you are young and you have 4 days of playing every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there has to be some times, if you drink, that you drink and probably drink too much, knowing that you've played hungover before, and sometimes it may actually help you because you're concentrating more to get over it.
All right. Have you ever witnessed this one did surprise me, a fellow tour player cheat during a tournament round?
Wow.
44% of the field said yes.
That surprises me.
And it said multiple times, tour's a joke when it comes to enforcing the rules. I've seen guys bend the rules and mark their ball improperly. Surprising to me because it's a game where you call penalties on yourself.
Yeah, only reason it's not that surprising is there's so many little ticky-tack rules, and so that's what they're probably referring for, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Has unruly fan behavior ever cost you a shot? 53% of the field said yes, 47 no. Someone said every single week.
Yeah, and somebody said no because nobody watches me.
I like that one the best. 56% of the field voted for Trump. 14% didn't vote, 18% ineligible, and 12% said no. If he runs again in 2020, will you vote for him? 42% of the field said yes. Undecided and ineligible were the leaders in the clubhouse. Tiger versus Phil. Who do you think the money's on?
Tiger.
76% of the money is on Tiger, 14% on Phil. 10% didn't want to pick a winner. Have you ever wagered $1,000 or more during a practice round?
That's inspiring.
Only 37%.
Wow.
I would have thought with as much money as those guys make and as much as they like the juice, it would have been higher.
Yeah, it's built into the game, I thought. That's the most surprising answer of all so far.
Do you worry that legalized sports gambling could corrupt the pro game? Only 19% said yes.
I agree. Gambling's normal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that we've seen it across other sports with the daily fantasy or what's going on. And most people aren't too concerned with that.